There's a rumor and conspiracy running around that Louis Vuitton is being inspired by African garments. Claims stand that LV brand has copied African designs and patterns that are used as Louis Vuitton's unique characteristic. Let's look into this. Let's look into the official mainstream story behind the iconic Louis Vuitton monogram pattern. It is said that it was created in 1896 by Georges Vuitton, the son of the company's founder Louis Vuitton. Georges designed this pattern for two main reasons. One, to honor his late father, who had passed away in 1892. And two, to protect the brand's authenticity in a market flooded with imitations and counterfeits. The pattern consists of two key elements, the interlocking LV initials, representing Louis Vuitton. These letters are designed to blend together seamlessly, and a floral motif inspired by Asian and Japanese aesthetics. The overall design incorporates symbols that represent innovation, travel, experiencing different cultures, durability, and French luxury. Georges Vuitton drew inspiration from classic Roman typefaces when creating the hand-drawn monogram. This distinctive pattern was applied to the brand's canvas products, making them easily recognizable and more difficult to counterfeit. Since its creation, the Louis Vuitton monogram has remained largely unchanged, becoming one of the most recognizable and valuable brand symbols in the fashion world. Louis Vuitton closely guards its manufacturing processes, which is why detailed information about specific tools or techniques may not be readily available to the public. Now let's look into these famous patterns. It's almost absurd how they created it allegedly for the reason to fight black market, when today LV is one of the most copied designs in the world. I have found very similar designs in African culture, and this is just one I found. I'm aware that there may be more. This is called Adinkra. Adinkra symbols are traditional symbols from Ghana that represent concepts or aphorisms. Adinkra symbols were originally created by the Bono people of Yemen. They were later adopted and spread by the Asani and other Akan peoples. The symbols are believed to have appeared around the year 700, following contact between Arab traders and the Ashani people. The oldest surviving Adinkra cloth dates back to 1817. This cloth features 15 stamped symbols and is currently housed in the British Museum. The symbols are extensively used in fabrics, especially Adinkra cloth, as well as in logos, pottery, and other decorative items. Each symbol has a unique meaning, often representing proverbs, historical events, human behavior, or philosophical concepts. Traditional Adinkra cloth is made by stamping fabric with carved calabash stamps dipped in dye made from tree bark. Today, Adinkra symbols are used decoratively on buildings, vehicles, books, and in logos of many organizations. The use of Adinkra symbols is deeply tied to Akan culture, where speaking in proverbs is highly valued. Let's look into some of these symbols from Adinkra. There are surely similarities. Could Vuitton be inspired by Africa? Absolutely and possibly. At the official creation time of this design in 1896, France had established control over much of West Africa. 1896 was during the period known as the Scramble for Africa, when European powers were rapidly colonizing and dividing up the African continent. In that process, perhaps artistic eye of Vuitton has landed on these patterns. It is believed that inspiration was instead from Japanese flower patterns. Let's have a look at them. Doesn't seem as similar as the Adinkra designs. What do you think? But that doesn't seem to be the only African cultural element that reminds people of LV monogram. Louis Vuitton has faced accusations of appropriating elements from the Kwele tribe's masks to create its iconic monogram. The Kwele are an African tribe known for their distinctive masks and similarities have been noted between these masks and Louis Vuitton's famous logo design. There are undeniable visual similarities between the geometric patterns found in Kwele masks and the LV logo. This has led to discussions about potential cultural appropriation by the luxury brand. While African fashion has been a source of inspiration for many European designers, the line between appreciation and appropriation can often be blurred. The issue highlights a broader concern in the fashion industry, where major luxury brands have been accused of borrowing or stealing designs from African tribes without proper attribution or compensation. This practice raises questions about the ethical implications of using indigenous cultural elements for commercial gain. Gaston Vuitton, grandson of Louis Vuitton's founder, played a significant role in the 1931 colonial exposition in Paris. He set up his own pavilion, referred to as a pavillon negre, where he displayed his personal collection of African tribal masks. Gaston's participation in this event reflects the company's involvement in the colonial mindset of the time. His display of African masks at the exposition later became a point of controversy when Louis Vuitton released a mask collection of bags inspired by these same masks. But that's not everything. Louis Vuitton has met with criticism from South Africans after turning the culturally significant Basotho blanket into the fashion trend for men. Basotho blanket are iconic elements of traditional attire. Boys participate in rituals marking their transition to adulthood, receiving special blankets at different life stages. There are also special occasions in the Basotho's national life where blankets symbolize the particular event. Louis Vuitton commit repetitive appropriation of culture from the continent without the people whose culture they plunder profiting or benefiting from it. To top it up, Louis Vuitton faced controversy for its 2012 Spring-Summer men's collection, which heavily drew inspiration from Maasai culture without proper acknowledgement or compensation. The collection featured items like hats, shirts, and scarves inspired by the Maasai shuka, a traditional African blanket known for its vibrant red and blue checkered patterns. This use of Maasai designs was widely criticized as cultural appropriation. While Louis Vuitton profited from the iconic Maasai aesthetic, the Maasai people, who largely live below the poverty line in Kenya and Tanzania, received no compensation or recognition. The incident highlighted broader issues of luxury fashion brands exploiting indigenous cultures for profit. It's estimated that around 80 companies are currently infringing on Maasai designs, potentially depriving the community of millions in licensing fees. In response, initiatives like the Maasai Intellectual Property Initiative (MIPI) have emerged to challenge such practices and ensure fair compensation for the Maasai community when their cultural elements are used commercially. Lastly, Louis Vuitton faced another controversy for incorporating Kente cloth, a traditional Ghanaian textile, into its 2021 Autumn-Winter men's collection. Kente, an iconic hand-woven fabric from Ghana, holds deep cultural and political significance. It was historically reserved for royalty and special occasions, symbolizing Ghanaian pride and Pan-African identity. Virgil Abloh, a Ghanaian-American designer for Louis Vuitton, showcased Kente-inspired designs in the fashion house's Haute Couture show. He printed the LV monogram on Kente-like fabric and styled it with Western clothing, creating a fusion of African and Western aesthetics. This use of Kente by Louis Vuitton generated mixed reactions. While some appreciated the global platform for Ghanaian culture, others criticized it as cultural appropriation. What about you? Do you think Louis Vuitton is feeding off African culture?